Hey, welcome to the Crazy J podcast show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time to talk about college bowl games, certain games I want to talk about Michigan, Texas, uh, Alabama, Indiana. Of course, we got to go to maybe Ohio and Miami. Well, shit, Ohio State and Miami Hurricanes. Let's not get that confused with Miami, Ohio. Okay, but folks, let's start with the Michigan Texas game. I want to say this. I got two things to say. Arch Manning is the real deal. I've never seen this kid can run. This kid is he is able to recognize the defense. He's able to get out of any type of trouble. He's able just to run as far as he can. He scored two touchdowns on his feet, for God's sake, on Michigan. And Michigan really, they hit play the first 3.5 quarters that kept up with Texas. I think that Bryce Underwood played pretty well for someone who's finally getting coached by the right people and not getting distracted with Cheryl Moore shenanigans. So there is something to look forward to. Everyone thought that Bryce Underwood would leave Michigan and go to maybe LSU. Maybe that's still the case. I don't know, but as of right now, I don't hear that mumbling as Bryce Underwood transferring in the Porterfield. So I feel like this could be a good setup for the new coach, Kyle Winnington, who was at the game, who who sat around, enjoyed the game, and just give the presence of just being there, knowing what he's getting himself into. So I do think that just having him there, not on the sideline, just on in the box seats, was a good thing. They would not be get too close to the team yet, and just observe what's going on. So going on to that, I just wanted to talk about Arch Manning's and Bryce Underwood's stats. So Bryce Underwood had 23 to 42 uh, attempts, completions, 199 yards, two touchdowns, three interceptions. It kind of sealed the deal by the last interception, even though we were still down by 14 points at that point, but it really would have not made a difference. He carried the ball 14 times. He had 69 yards with one touchdown on his feet. So, and his longest was 33 yards. Arch Manning, uh, 21 for 34 completions, 221 yards, two touchdowns, no interceptions, nine carries, 155 yards, just massive. Longest one was 60 yards. I mean, like this is a guy that is looking like a lot like his grandfather, Archie Manning. He doesn't resemble Peyton Manning or Eli Manning that can't move anywhere. For God's sake, I could go on about Eli Manning or Jared Goff looking like Eli Manning, but that's a whole nother story. If you look at the whole game itself, the third down conversions for Michigan was 4 for 18. Couldn't do much for the ball. I felt like because Bryce Underwood's was underachieving and not uh, really developed yet, his 4 for 18 played a huge uh, crip, a cripple moment for Michigan. Obviously, 5 for 6 for fourth down conversions. That you could say it was desperate, or you have to stay in the game somehow, some way. So that's one thing that you got to kind of look at. Uh, Archie Manning in Texas with 2 for 2 on fourth down. Michigan had 174 yards in rushing. Uh, and then Texans had 235 yards. So Texas was really balanced. Michigan, if you look at their passing yards, 199 yards. So you get Michigan with 199 yards of of passing and 174 on the ground. It's it's balancing itself out. You're just playing a better team, and Texas was the better team, obviously. If you look at Texas, they had 235 yards rushing. A lot of that was Arch Manning for 155 yards, like I said. Passing was 220 yards with those two touchdowns, dime pieces. I mean, you can't get any better than that. He looks a lot better than he did against Ohio State, first game against a Big Ten team. So he warmed himself up. And I will say that Bryce Underwood against Ohio State, he looked a lot better for this game against Texas. So that's something I'd be very confident about. The passing yards per down was 4.6. You want that to be higher than 4.6. You want that to be about 5.5, 6.2, maybe even 7 yards. Even that'd be great for a short second down or even third down conversion. Michigan's three turnovers, interceptions of Bryce Underwood really sealed the deal for the game in itself. So if you look at the game itself, did Michigan score points? Yes. Did Michigan play defense? They did their best, and that's all you can ask for. So I want to go to this next game, and I want to go to Alabama versus Indiana. And I'm going to say this, folks. It was a blowout. Nothing happened. I everybody was astonished to see that Alabama seemed to not even show up to the game. They didn't even come close to anything. It was like one of those games that if this was a playoff game that Indiana played against uh, a very small team and it didn't matter, people would have turned it off. But because of Kurt Singati for Indiana's coach, phenomenal story, phenomenal coach, Indiana University, we all ended up watching the whole game. I ended up watching the game because you never go see this stuff ever again. This is one of maybe every 30 years that you're going to see a dynasty that may have just started with Singati. So this could be the new Michigan. This could be the new Ohio State, Indiana University. We have to wait and see how far they go in the playoffs. But if you look at the whole stats, first downs, Indiana had 22. Alabama only had 11. Third down conversions, 9 for 14 for Indiana, 3 for 11 for Alabama. Passing 192, 170 for Alabama, 192 for Indiana. Passing per yards, 12 yards per passing. That's just crazy. Mr. Fernando Mendoza, he had the game of his lifetime, 14 for 16, 192 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. So this kid's for real. The Heisman Trophy, he's for real. He's going to be a number one draft pick. I don't know where he's going to go. I hope they take care of him in the pros and let him develop in the pros in that field in itself. If you look at the rushing, you see Indiana had 215 yards. You see uh, Alabama only had 23. They couldn't run the football. They couldn't save their life. And if you take the running game away from any team, it doesn't matter. It's Michigan, Ohio State, anyone else. It's just going to be a floppy moment. It's just not going. It doesn't balance itself out. It's just not fun for the team like Alabama that just couldn't do anything. Uh, Rushing per yards 4.3 for Indiana, 1.5 for Alabama. Rushing attempts 17 rushing attempts for Alabama, and there's 50 rushing attempts for Indiana. So if you look if you look at if you look at the balance of Indiana, they just ran the football. They they just took Alabama to school. There was no ifs and buts about it. So I mean, if you look even in the possession of the game, you see 34 minutes with Indiana, 25 minutes with Alabama. It was all around astonished development of the game. I mean, look at Elijah Cerati. He had 4 for 40. He had 4 receptions, 40 yards, 1 touchdown. 24 yards was his longest. Ricky no Nowakowski, 3 receptions, 36 yards. Uh, Again, you go to Caden Black, 15 carries for 99 yards, 1 touchdown. The longest one was 25 yards. 18, well, Raymond Hembley, which I accidentally called him Rush or something on my own Crazy Dre podcast show as a short. So I'd like to apologize to Roman Hembley, but it was 18 carries, 89 yards, one touchdown, 21 was his longest run. Uh, Charles Burder had two receptions. I'm going back to receiving, 51 yards, one touchdown for a 30-yard plus. And then you had Ormar Cooper Jr., three receptions, 45 yards, one touchdown, and 38 yards was his longest. So everything just balanced itself out for Indiana. I I am I am pretty sure I'm excited about seeing Indiana play. I think they play Miami next. So that should be a good game. Defense, I don't see Miami's offense really, doing much, even though I was surprised that they beat this team. Uh, Miami beat Ohio State. I thought that Ohio State, of all things, they would have made a halftime adjustments, and they did. They started running the football in the second half. So would so I'm just kind of surprised at how well Miami was able to sack the quarterback five times. They were able to just dominate the front line pretty well. I'm just I don't know. I just don't know uh, what happened. Maybe the fact that they Ohio State put so much emphasis on being Michigan that they basically just wore themselves out. I mean, they put a lot of emphasis. They did everything possible of what happened last year at Ohio State, having Michigan beat them. So 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 that's something maybe Ohio State. That's the big game of the year. They have to be U of M, and they just didn't couldn't do it. So I would say that Ryan Day has his job secured. I don't see him going nowhere. I think that uh, for the state of Michigan and state of Ohio, that's great to see these two teams doing very well. Obviously, Ohio State was eliminated, so was Michigan, but that's sometimes that's the way it works. So. Hopefully that hopefully Indiana can do something about it. Maybe become the back to back to back champions of of the of the college bowls in itself. So I'm going to talk about uh, the Detroit Lions here, folks. And I know that this is not the half for it right now, but you know what? This was a long year for Detroit Lions, folks. Detroit Lions. I don't know who I feel bad for. I don't know if I feel bad for the fan base, like my fan base. I mean, we were anticipating a great year. We had a really, really bad start with uh, Frank Ragnar going out as an injury, going out as retirement, didn't want to play. Uh, he just didn't really want to participate. He tried to make a comeback in the later part of the year, but he did not pass his physical. You want to feel bad probably more for like Montgomery and Dan Campbell. I would say Montgomery because Dan Campbell and John Morton just didn't know how to balance uh, Gibbs and Montgomery as they did with Ben Johnson. So that's something that you gotta consider in a way that is just unfortunate that we missed the playoffs. Uh, Sam Brown and Isaac Tesla and Hutchinson. It's just bad news for the rest of the team. I know that Decker is probably going to retire by the end of the year, obviously, but he probably hasn't decided yet. But I mean, there's so many different changes that that Detroit has to do. And one of the changes that we all know that they should do is what? Is at least go to get themselves an offense coordinator. Uh, Maybe someone that I would almost say this. I would almost prefer an offense coordinator that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes don't have a very uh, strong relationship with. I think with Ben Johnson, it was a very strong relationship that Dan Campbell have coached with him in Miami. I think that uh, that that kind of bailout moment when Ben Johnson went to the Bears. Uh, yes, he got paid. He got paid a lot of lots of money, but you didn't win a championship in Detroit. You just left. And I think that's one thing I hate about professional sports now, along with college sports, is that teams and coaches, they teach, they talk, and then yap and say, but this is about the team. This is about identity. We are champions. We come together. We play together. We're going to die together. We're going to win together. And you know what happens? People just leave. They leave before they win a championship. They always transition to different offense coordinators, different defense coordinators. I mean, to be honest with you, some people are upset with Kelvin Shepard's a play call throughout the year, but to be honest with you, it's really not his fault. He had an injury to Terran Arnold. Brian Branch was hurt. I've said this before. It's our Achilles heel of our D backs, safeties, cornerbacks, that area. It's just always been that case. Uh, you just want something better for Detroit. I just think that Detroit needs to get someone that doesn't have um, uh, that relationship with Dan or with Brad Holmes. I want someone that wants to come in and improve his point, and is not friends with either of those guys, and say, you know what, I'm going to come in, we're going to win a championship together, and I don't want to leave until we win. And that's what I think Detroit really needs to look at in the next offense coordinator, not someone that John Morton, that Dan Campbell kind of knew, and Ben Johnson. I said that before, but someone fresh, someone that's going to be able to kind of like uh, take the responsibility to make Jared Goff better, not just better for one game, but better for the whole year and going into the playoffs next year. I want to see a an offense coordinator just kind of bully it down and say, "Look, this is our game plan. This is what we're going to do. I'm not here to be your friend. I'm not. I do not care to be your best buddy, but we got to win. We got to win. This is what I'm here for. This is what they pay me. They pay me to make the great calls for the offense of team, and I'm going to put a lot of responsibility on Jared Goff. Jared Goff is probably going to have to be developing the most. And I mean, not just his arms, but his awareness in the pocket, his awareness about the clock in his head when he's supposed to throw it. Uh, I wish he was more aware of the defense and how those guys are lined up and who's going blitz, who's not going blitz. I you know, I think there's time for someone to put more responsibility on Jared Goff. I would like to see Jared Goff to actually make his own play calls at times and say, you know what, I get this. I see the defense. I know what's going on. I know it's zone 2 or zone 3, or I know it's a nickel defense, or I know that this safety or this cornerback is going blitz. I'm going to audible, throw it out that way. That's kind of what I want to see Jared Goff. I don't want to see Jared Goff kind of like this and looking around and then get sacked. That's not what Detroit needs. We don't need uh, Jared Goff to get sacked. Obviously, Detroit's going to probably have to get a couple more cornerbacks and safeties in the draft pick. Maybe get a guy in the free agency. I think Detroit's going to have to revamp their offensive line. I think with just Ratledge, the rookie isn't going to really do it for you. Skipper, I mean, he's basically Skipper. He was on the practice squad in Detroit. He came on the team in the later part of the year. And I think that Skipper is a great backup offense line, but Detroit's going to have to revamp that whole offense line. I think that maybe if I was Jared Goff, I would take a pay cut, and maybe a couple of the guys that would take a pay cut to put an offense line in there to protect Jared Goff and to go from there. That's my gimmick. That's what I'm going to stick with. Ladies and gentlemen, you can always at this time of the show, I'm going to promote myself, Crazy Dre Podcast Show on YouTube, Patreon. You can find me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can download the podcast. If you like this episode and you enjoyed it, please give me the thumbs up. Please follow, subscribe, and spread the word. All right, folks, I'm out of here. Take care.